Hello everybody, I hope you're doing alright. Last video I was talking about how I like to divide my paycheck monthly by different categories, the 50, 30, and 20%, where 20% I use it towards savings. And that might be a lie. It's true that we use a number of 4,500 as an example, but the real numbers are different. And I'm saying that because yes, the real number might be around 4,500, and that's kind of what I base it on and everything. But everything else that comes extra, like for example, me going to university and get paid, I don't get paid during summer times or specific breaks. So I don't like to calculate that specific number because it will be changing constantly and I don't want it. So I want to have a consistent budget that will pretty much attach, and anything that comes extra, it will be depending on what it needs to be. Like we need to plan for more travel, or we need to do more savings, or we want to do for something else. That's kind of what I do with extra money, and to be honest, it tends to be more into savings. And because it's like a number that changes constantly, I don't want to include in a specific pie on the division. Because, for example, that do not include my significant other income because I let her do what she wants to do with her money type of scenario because everything else is already paid off. And anything that comes into a house or anything else, it honestly is not part of it as well because I don't need it. And hopefully in the future I can have different side hustles or incomes where it will be different, but at the same time it will not be included towards this specific budget. So we're gonna be talking about 20% of 4,500, which ended up being 900 per month. But because I don't like that specific number, I prefer to make it 1,000 instead. We're gonna be making it 1,000. So every month in the first week, I ended up taking 500 and putting into investments. It kind of changes or depending what I want, to be honest. But I tend to use Vanguard, and I would say that I would recommend to use the whatever version you want as a ETF. For example, you want to do something like it's like a S&P 500, go for Ball. In my case, I like to bet better into different diversification because I like to bet into the big, medium, and small companies instead of just going for the heavy top and medium companies instead. Because I feel like even though the small companies are small, they will not change drastically. So if anything really goes bad, maybe they don't go too bad as well. That's my thinking, right? But like I said, depends on the person you wanna go or heavy into the American market. Go, you can go ahead. But what happened is with the BTI, in the case I use, it is like towards companies in America with different but caps. In this case, big, medium, small companies. Might not be a big number of small companies, but something. And at the same time, I like to divide it into different sector, which is the VXUS. This is pretty much international market, and I like to diversify into national international because, for example, the ball is all S&P 500, the best companies in America, pretty much. The BT is one stock ETF where it is national like 60-30%, international 30-40%. Which that's what I'm saying. If you want to go something simple, I will go for that one or both. But in my scenario, I like to go when it comes about 50% into national, so BTI, 30% into international, so VXUS, and what happened to the other 20% of that 500. So I ended up making it in two different things. If I feel that specific market, let's say the national one, is not doing too great, I ended up taking it into more national. And you're gonna say, why the market is doing bad? Why are you gonna go more into the national? And that's because we had the saying of buying the dip. Pretty much, if something goes up eventually, you're buying it cheaper right now. So it might be doing better, as you know, right now. But if eventually it goes up, you're buying it cheaper. And that's kind of what I do. Depending which one is doing a little worse, I ended up going for that. But most of the time, that 20% ended up going in two specific directions. One, ended going 10% into Bitcoin, and the other 10% ended up going into the whatever is doing worse. And that's pretty much what I ended up doing with 500. They stay sit in a high savings yield account, where right now is receiving a 3.3%. It's true that normally the market, at least the S&P 500, there's like idea of 7, 10, 12% per year, and of course at 3.3 is even worse. So why doing it? And I just want to have it like a say, if something happen and we need to spend a little more, then I just prefer to have it a little safe and earning something instead of having nothing. And that's what I ended up doing. So at the end of the month, whatever money is left, it goes to the next month investment extra cap. So it's no longer 500, it is 500 in whatever was extra. And that's what I ended up making every month. I ended up making something that is around 800 for sure every month towards investments and everything else. Let's say the 4,500 kind of sits still into a high savings account where again it's keeping like a 3.3%, and I ended up getting like a 10 to $20 every month extra depending on how much money there is sit down. And yes, it's true that I had to pay taxes pretty much on that income in parentheses, but it's okay. I prefer to get something like I say, $10, $20 per month extra rather than nothing. And if I had to pay taxes on that specific amount, it's fine. I don't care. And that's pretty much what I ended up doing when it comes into investments and savings. Unfortunately, my income that I receive personally, the one that is specifically into a specific budget, I do not have it as taxable income. So because it's not taxable, I'm not able to make it into um 401k or a Roth IRA. I cannot because it's not taxable. So what happened is I ended up making it into normal stacks, normal investments. It's true that other income it is taxable. So when that happened is I kind of slowly put the extra money that I mentioned before and goes into those specific savings investment accounts because those are taxable. And like I mentioned, anything else, anything extra than 4,500, it goes towards investments. And that's pretty much the answer. That's the way I do it. And it's true that I could potentially start filling up, making um health account where I can put money for whatever medical needs or medical payments. It's true. I don't say no, but because our medical insurance is not really that bad. Pretty much anything I need medical wise is free, and my significant others, for example, uh, it's like a copay, which is not a big copay neither. So we don't really see the needs of. It's true that if I were to spend money into a health yield account, when we get older, we can take out that money and it's doable. But no, I don't think there's a need because we don't pay that much into health expenses, and because we don't really want to like keep track of every medical expense that needs to be done, anything like that. When we do it, I don't want to go through the hassle. But there are different ways to actually save, which I can make video later on. But this is a video about how I do it and pretty much the ways I do. And that's pretty much the way I do it. And yes, it might be an extra income, which is pretty much whatever I get into credit cards. And whatever I get into credit cards, if it is cash and we are short money, we use a cash for specific expenses. But like I mentioned, anything that comes after 4,500, it goes into savings and investments. So that's pretty much what everything that comes into cashback credit cards go, and the it goes into like travel credit cards, points. Those are things that straight up it goes into buying a car rental or having the airfare tickets or the hotels nights. So it's not calculated all the way. But thank you guys for being watching this video. At the same time, I appreciate when it comes to Tampa travel because he commented either first comment on the channel. It says thank you for sharing your experience and your strategy. So I hope you guys continue support me, and I hope that my experience can give you a little bit of idea of what my scenarios or what your scenarios can lead to, or how can you pretty much go a little bit. And like I mentioned, I would eventually make more videos about different ways of accounts or different ways of savings or different ways a person can that are doing it. But so far, I appreciate everything and I hope to see you later. So, bye bye.